Hi, my name is Alex and I welcome you to today's video. After several delays, the first real open world adventure in the Harry Potter universe has finally made it to the Nintendo Switch. What seems impossible at first glance has actually happened, so let's take a closer look at the port. Let's get one thing straight up front. Although Hogwarts Legacy makes use of the world and the familiar creatures and spells of the Harry Potter series, the open world adventure is explicitly not a Harry Potter game. You won't run into Harry or Dumbledore here. Not the least because the plot of the Wizard adventure is set in the late 19th century and thus creates a narrative space that aims to break free from the original. The story focuses on a wizard student, who can be freely created in the detailed character editor and who arrives a few years late to the sorting ceremony in the Great Hall. Why a latecomer only starts as a 5th grader at the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry remains the author's secret. But the advanced age of the protagonist gives us more freedom in training and exploring the castle. It remains no secret that the main character has a special talent. They can use so-called ancient magic, which only a few wizards and witches can even perceive. After a turbulent start in which a dragon destroys the vehicle of those traveling to Hogwarts, my wizard and our mentor Professor Fig get into a secret dungeon of the Wizard Bank Gringotts via a portkey and some other detours. It quickly becomes clear that we are not the only ones who want to use this power. The main villain in Hogwarts Legacy is the goblin Ranrock, the brutal leader of goblin rebels who want to challenge the balance of power in the wizarding world by force. Ranrock has allied himself with the dark wizard Rockwood, but as if that wasn't enough, I meet the self-appointed Guardians of Ancient Magic, who test us with trials created especially for this purpose. Without giving too much away, the story is split into two storylines by these motifs, which are only united quite late on. As a result, I felt a little lost, especially in the middle of the 25-hour campaign, as it was sometimes not entirely clear to me why a quest was now part of the main storyline, while a similar task was treated as a subplot. In addition, although the story is told in a solid way, I felt that the antagonists in particular lacked sharpness and depth in their characterization. Why does Ranrock want to conquer the wizarding world? Unclear. Even whether there are legitimate motives for his rebellion is covered up with soft magic tones. One or two goblins do speak out, naturally condemning Ranrock's violence, but conceding that the leader's aim may have a certain background after all. The real protagonist of this action-adventure is clearly the school castle itself. Whether it's the floating candles in the Great Hall, the fabulously animated entrances to the common rooms of the houses, or the magnificent architecture of the clock tower or the grand staircase. Added to this is the uncanny precision in the realization from the original books and films. From the library to the greenhouses and from the potion room to the principal's office in the highest tower of the building, everything is exactly where it should be. The same applies to the rest of the map, which not only covers the small wizarding village of Hogsmeade and the Forbidden Forest, but also extends across settlements, lakes and rugged cliffs to the coast in the south. The open world is huge, and in many places offers a similar attention to detail as a striking castle. The action-oriented battles in Hogwarts Legacy rely on a system that reminds me of Rocksteady's Batman games, with its focus on dodging and counter-attacking marked by overlays, only in long-distance magic wand combat. In addition to the standard attack and the aforementioned protection and counter spells, I have a whole range of combat spells at my disposal, which are divided into 3 color-coded spell groups. Combos are particularly effective. For example, when I fling an enemy into the air, pull them towards me and then set them alight with a fire spell Incendio. Sometimes enemies have a colored protective sphere around them, which I first have to pick off with a corresponding spell before I can deal my damage. The combat system works really well. The combos in particular create spectacular chains of effects, some of which I can garnish with ancient magic finishers. However, as it should be clear by now what the strengths and weaknesses of the game are in general, we will now look at the most interesting part, the technical implementation. Hogwarts Legacy is probably the most elaborate third-party port for the Nintendo Switch that any developer has dared to tackle so far. Beforehand, there were always social media posts that made fun of the port, which makes it all the sweeter to be able to show these people the opposite. First of all, the port has massive downgrades compared to the versions of the current consoles. This means the resolution is lower, textures are more blurred, and some edges could do with some anti-aliasing. The latter is particularly noticeable in the character's hair, but the problem is almost completely eliminated in handheld mode. However, these are all downgrades that can be expected and are above all bearable. Nevertheless, I still think the game is really attractive and the Switch version is a real alternative, especially for on the go, where many flaws are less visible. There's not much negative to say about the framerate either. The game runs at an unlocked framerate and often manages to maintain 30 frames per second. Nevertheless, there are also some situations where it can end up in the mid-20s. The biggest sacrifice the developers probably had to make to get the game running is the lack of many NPCs, which unfortunately takes a little of the liveliness out of the places. On the one hand, Hogwarts Legacy is the epitome of a modern AAA title for me. The production quality of the Hogwarts adventure is at an incredibly high level. The atmosphere exudes the vibe of the Harry Potter films, and there is also a lot of love in the details and the virtual realization of the world. In terms of narrative, however, the developers remain as safe as can be. There are hardly any accents. The main character is a pale, empty player vessel without character, and there is next to no development worth mentioning during the main story. However, as already mentioned, the great and detailed world and the battles against the various wizards and monsters are a real enrichment. On the other hand, the game sets a new standard for third-party ports on the Nintendo Switch and is therefore the epitome of an impossible port. For these reasons, I rate Hogwarts Legacy for the Nintendo Switch an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. If you liked it, we would be very happy about a like and a subscription. Or if you're interested in getting early access to our future reviews, feel free to visit our Patreon page.
Are you alright? Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.